Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Hey, poddies. Here we are, 10th of February. I'm excited. Today's episode, I'm really excited about. We're talking today about the top 3 ways that I use to find more times for sales activities. Now, I have been racking my slightly tired, frazzled January brain for the best ways and the top tips that I have, and I've whittled it down to 3, so that's what we'll be covering in today's episode. Now, this all came about because I realized relatively recently that I cannot keep context switching. One of the things that people told me about hitting 30, they were kind of adamant that 30 was going to be either amazing and that I would have 0 F's given, I was going to be this like super strong independent woman singing Destiny's Child, or 30 was going to be like this downhill thing where suddenly I would start getting hangovers, hashtag never had one, where my hair would go grey, hashtag already happened, that's why I diet. And the only thing that I've noticed a change since I've become 30, or since I've turned 30, is that context switching hurts my brain far more now than it did in my early 20s. That's it. That's literally all I've noticed. And the reason that I noticed this, I want to stress, is nothing to do with my business at all. I don't context switch in my business a whole lot. I think it's very bad for your brain. That's why I don't do it. And I don't believe that it makes me more productive. However, I was recently donating lots of items to charity shops. I was having my annual throw out all of my clothes that no longer fit me, that I'm probably never going to wear ever again, binge. And I realized how difficult it is for me as a human being to complete very, very simple tasks. Basically, unless it's some kind of achievement at the end, I'm probably not going to do it. And so I was sat there and I was throwing all my clothes onto the floor. I was putting them in bin bags, doing the whole spring cleaning or winter purging thing, depending on how long winter goes on for you. And every, 20 minutes, I got really bored. And, I was bored of sorting through things, and I just wanted to get up and move about. So I would get up and I would put music onto Spotify, play it on the sound bar and things. I'd have like a dance around for 15 minutes, and then I'd have to go back to sorting out the purge of the clothes. And it was just the worst feeling, just the worst feeling ever. When you're doing something, you're like, oh God, this is just awful. And then you do something that's quite fun, i.e. dance around your living room like a loon, and then you have to go back to the awful thing. You're just like, ugh. And yet so many of us do it. I see so many business owners who do that in their businesses day in, day out, because let's face it, we like to do the tasks that we like. And we don't always like the bit of having a business that is suck it up and do the tasks that you don't necessarily love all that much. I get it. I hear you. And so it made me start to think about, one of the common objections I hear when I talk to people about why they're not making more money in their businesses. A lot of people say to me that they just don't have the time, right? And I get it. I do absolutely, as a human, appreciate there are only 24 hours in a day. And I'm not going to tell you at any point during this episode, we all have 24 hours in a day and we all get to choose how to spend them. We all know that. We're adults, okay? Some days, though, you'd rather not spend those 24 hours on working and admin and business development and prospecting. Some days you'd rather spend that on Netflixing and, going to brunch with friends. But annoyingly, having a business does require some work. And given that having a business kind of relies on selling and relies on you being the person who is the primary salesperson, especially at the start of your business, I wanted to just help you overcome a few of the time issues that you might be having. Because I don't, people say this to me a lot. They're like, oh, you're so lucky. You don't have children. You don't have, family that you have to run around and all that kind of thing. So you must have tons of time. And to a certain degree, I do have a lot of time, right? That's because I make that happen. And I'm going to show you how with the tips that I'm going to share today. Yes, I don't have children. And honestly, you guys that do, you're heroes. You really are. I promise you, though, I have so many clients who have children, who are building amazing businesses around their children, and who are still being phenomenal parents, that actually you might be able to find a better way of working. Sometimes it's not about looking at the time you don't have because of what else it's filled up of, and feeling resentful, like, oh, I have kids, or oh, I have a dog, or oh, I have, whatever else that I have to go and do. It's about looking at how can I actually maximize the time that I do have. Some people tell me, oh, I have no time. And I say, okay, well, let's break it down. And we look at how much time they spend, genuinely how much time they spend, not the estimate, but how much time it takes them to do things like the school run, or how much time it takes them to walk the dog at lunchtime, or how much time it takes them to run client calls or to create content. And when we look at it, most people have about 20 hours a week that they actually want to work in their business. 20 hours. And that includes client delivery, it includes business development, it includes content creation. And so when people tell me that, I'm like, yeah, it's perfectly possible to run your business, to create a successful business, to maintain a successful business. However, there are a few caveats to it. It requires you being super productive during those 20 hours. It requires you accepting that there are going to be some weeks where you feel like you got loads done, and some weeks life is just going to throw stuff at you and you're going to have to figure it out, and you might feel like you've achieved nothing. But that's what today is going to solve. Okay, so I'm going to dive straight in. We're going to talk about the top 3 ways that I include sales activities in my daily business without expending tons of time or energy on it. All right. Now, I do want to caveat this. So before I go, here you go, do X, Y, and Z, I want to let you know that there is a certain amount of time that is required to start or maintain a successful business. Okay. There are certain situations that will require you to do things ad hoc. You can absolutely create a business that fits your life, and I'm a complete advocate of that. Right? If you want to do laptop lifestyle, good for you. If you want to go and work inside companies delivering trainings, good for you. If you want to do what I do and watch Netflix and build funnels, good for you. However, and this sounds really harsh, but I think we all need the reminder, you don't get to have the lifestyle before your business is built. I know, and I do know, that people have been preaching in the online space for years that yes, you can absolutely build a business on 2 hours a week and it's all going to be fine, and you can live the laptop lifestyle and travel wherever you like. And yeah, once your business is at a point where it's actually making money, you can do all of those things. Until that point, you do have to have a certain element of suck it up, princess, right? Building a business is not easy. It also doesn't happen overnight. So, I'm going to tell you about these techniques and things that I want you to do and that can make your life easier. But I do want you to be aware of the kind of false marketing out there. If you were in the first 18 months of your business, I get it. It feels like a slog. I remember the late nights. I remember the tech that didn't work on launches. Hell, I still remember the tech that doesn't work on launches because it just fails me on the regular. I remember having to do early morning client calls and late night client calls around my job so that I could have the money to build my business. I remember working weekends. I remember sitting and fiddling around with copy late at night. I've been there and I empathize. I know how crappy it is. I also know how exciting it is. You'll never get that phase back of your business again where you have that undiluted, genuine passion where you're so excited and motivated to start. Right? So if that's where you are, make the most of it. Be excited. Yes, you're going to spend more time on it. Yes, you're not going to have the lifestyle that you want just yet, but it's coming. Put the work in now, right? Put the time in now, put the energy in now, and it will happen. And in 2 years' time, you'll be looking back and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe all the stuff I used to do. You'll be a hero for you and for your business. Okay, so that is the only caveat. Sometimes you just have to put the time in. You've got to put the initial work in first. then you have the lifestyle piece. If you try and do the lifestyle piece before, if you're like the kind of person who's like, no, I'm starting my business, but I'm only going to work between 12 and 2 on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I can tell you right now, you'll have a great lifestyle until the money runs out and when your business inevitably is not making any more cash. Okay? Work first, rewards later. All right, so at the risk of sounding like Gary Vee, not telling anyone to hustle, just saying put in a reasonable amount of work from the beginning. Let's get looking at the sales activities that you can be implementing that won't require tons more time and energy. The first thing here, when people talk to me about not having enough time, I get it. And one of the reasons that I think people often lack time in their schedule, and they do, it's not like I think people are just sat there kind of watching TV all day, right? But I do think there are common factors in why some people have less time than others or feel like they have less time than others. And one of the things that I noticed right from when I was working back in my corporate job was that some people are very reactive. And what happens is some people don't have a plan. They'll like wake up in the morning and they'll get out of bed and they sit down at their computer and then they're like, oh, right, yeah, now business. And so before you know it, they've been sat there for like 3 hours. They've answered emails. They've been super responsive in Facebook groups. They've, dealt with all their clients. They've done all that stuff. They've expended all this energy, but there's nothing revenue generating there. Nothing, not one thing. It's just like firefighting and email management and client help. And that's great. Those are not bad things, but they're not necessarily the first activity you want to do every day, because ultimately, when you start with these kind of reactive tasks, what happens is you end up firefighting the whole day. Who's been there? I've done it before. I've woken up and I've been like, oh, it's usually when I come back from holiday. I'll have a holiday, I'll come back and I'll have all these good intentions. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have 150,000 emails. And it really stresses me out. And until I've answered them all, I feel like I can't do anything else. I get it. It's more important than ever that you start your day with a sales activity when you are feeling overwhelmed, when you have lots of things to do, when you have a ton of other tasks on your plate. Because if you start the day with a sales activity, whatever that is, whether it's releasing a podcast episode that sells for you, whether it's, sending out an email that is a sales activity, whether it's following up with somebody who said they were going to buy something and, you're waiting for them to do it. If you start the day with a sales activity, you've done it. Just one a day. That's honestly all your business needs to start becoming profitable, is one sales activity a day. And if you start with that, you know that you're not going to end up at 5:05 when you're feeling a bit gross and you're like, oh, I've had the worst day or I've had the best day, but I'm tired, my brain is fried, and I just want to sit down, have dinner, have a glass of wine, catch up with my family, do those things. You don't want to do your sales activity then. So make it the first one of the day. And then after that, read as many emails as you want. Respond to as many Facebook posts as you like. Do all of the client stuff. Be an absolute hero for your clients. But always start with a sales activity. That's what's going to keep your business growing, okay? Equally, if you start the day with a sales activity, it doesn't take up tons of time. You just plan it out. Right, what am I going to do? Sit down on Monday, or, sit down when you plan out your week or whatever. Which sales activity am I going to do on each morning? Don't make it hard for yourself. Don't sit there and have to think about it every day. Plan it out in advance, what you're going to do, what day, and then just sit there. First thing you do every day, done. And honestly, the more practice you get at it, the easier it becomes. And you find that your sales activity in the morning takes 10 minutes instead of 30, because you're not worried about it. You're not thinking, oh, what if they say this, or what if this happens? You're just doing it because that's what you do now. Yeah. Saves time, makes you money. Absolutely start your day with a sales activity. Now, the second thing that I say to all of my clients who are time stretched and who want to be making sales consistently is add a call to action. For the love of all things grape related and Nordic Viking gods that I quite like and I'm entertained by. I'm reading a book about them at the moment. It's probably why. Please add calls to action. Everybody's out there doing all this stuff, right? They're creating organic content like it's going out of fashion. They've got Instagram posts going out every day. They've got Facebook posts going out every day. They've got emails going out. They are on YouTube. They're producing podcast episodes. They're doing Facebook Lives. They're on TikTok. They're doing Snapchat stuff. And their calls to action are like non-existent. There are people literally posting, like they'll create like this big value bomb post. And then at the end, they just go, oh yeah, what do you think? What a flipping cop out. Like, what do you think? Well, I don't care what you think. I've just spent 10 minutes writing this awesome piece of value content. I don't care what you think about it. I want you to buy something. Go and do the thing. Like, go and buy the thing. Go and download the guide. Give me your email address. Sign up for an event. Not what do you think? Unless you actually care. You know, and let's be honest, there are very few situations where really we want to say, what do you think? Unless we are asking somebody for their thoughts on a survey, unless we are putting out a particular discussion point because we want to collate opinions. We don't want them, we're not interested necessarily. It sounds horrible, but it's not. We want them to go and take action. We want them to be inspired and motivated and want to do something, not sit there and think some more. That's the danger of business. Everyone who's consuming content constantly and not actually implementing anything, that's the problem. So don't give them more to think about or ponder on. Tell them, what do you want them to do? Go and take this action. Go and download my newsletter. Go and get on my list. Go and buy this thing. Go and grab a ticket to an event. Go and buy a journal, or whatever you want them to do. But it would take you 30 seconds extra to write a decent call to action on every single piece of content, or say a call to action on every single piece of content that you produce, but people don't do it. And then they don't have time. Well, you do have time. Sales doesn't have to be a separate activity from publishing content. It doesn't have to be a separate activity to building relationships. It should be integrated. If you're having catch-up calls with former clients, you can drop in like, hey, who could you recommend me to? Or hey, could you introduce me to this person? Or hey, how are you getting on? Do you need any help from me right now? You can build it into anything and everything that you're doing every single day. And I know that some of you don't love sales right now, and that's okay. Like, I get it. But one day you will, if you do it more and if you actually see the results, and then you'll want to sell all of the time because it becomes the most fun thing and it becomes the most natural thing in the world to let somebody know how they can take a further action, how they can benefit more from a situation. It's powerful. So make sure that you're doing it, right? Add a call to action to every single piece of content that you have going out. Yes, it might make you feel uncomfortable. Yes, you might feel like you're selling all the time at first, but guess what? Then you'll make money and you won't care. You honestly won't. For every single person who tells you, oh, I think it's really awful that you sell on your post, your podcast, your videos, your this, your that, you'll have 5 more who actually buy something from you, or who download your latest free guide, or get real value from something you tell them to go and do. So that one person doesn't matter. We don't base our opinions or our emotions on that one person. We base it on the majority. And the majority are going to be really happy about it. Number 3, and this is my favorite, is schedule your time so that you're not multitasking and context switching. Now, just like me, when I'm doing my clothing spring clean, which, let's be honest, I've not finished. I need to stop context switching with it. I need to have an afternoon where I sit down and like, no dance parties, just get it done. But actually, most people have more time than they think. I know that 20 hours a week, it perhaps doesn't sound like a lot. But actually, if you use it effectively, it really can be. When you're asking your brain to context switch and jump from task to task, that's really challenging. People often say to me, how do you create so much content? And like, is it really hard? Are you really reactive on stuff? And the honest answer is no. I have 1 week a month where I sit down, I don't do any client calls. I don't do anything like in terms of being face-to-face or on Zoom or anything with clients. I don't do anything like that for a whole week. I will go into paid Facebook communities once a day and I'll just check in. But I only in that week create content. That's it. I sit down for the first week of every month and I just record my podcast episodes. I record episodes with guests, or I'm a guest on other people's podcasts and I book those recordings for that week. I create all my newsletters. I write my social posts. Nobody else does that. Like, I don't have a copywriter or anything. I do all of that myself. I'm a bit retentive about it. I like to do those things. I'm super controlling. Very difficult to work with on the copy front, because it's my voice. It's my content. It's something that I want control over. But I also want to give it the time and the care and attention it deserves, because otherwise, my podcast episodes would go out and they'd be half-assed and not researched well. And that wouldn't provide the best content to you, so you wouldn't come back and listen again, right? So I take that week, and that's the only thing I do in that week. I create content. And once the content is created, even if, if I finish, let's say I finish creating that content on Wednesday and I'm like, right, I'm all done. I've recorded all my podcast episodes, of which I do 6 a month. It used to be 12. So I get it. I feel you if you think you're going to create a lot of content, but I create 6 podcast episodes a month. I create 8 to 10 newsletters per month, and I create any launch emails per month. And then every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have some kind of social post going out somewhere, which I create or I write and, repurpose from somewhere. It's not like tons of content. It takes me a week. It takes me a week to do it well. It takes me a week to do it properly. And it means that I don't have to switch my brain to other tasks. It means I'm not sat there in an evening after a day full of client calls being like, oh, right, well, what I've got to do now is create this really valuable post for tomorrow. It's done. And I don't have to worry about it. And then I have 3 weeks of the month where I get to focus on client calls. And on those weeks, I don't work Monday mornings and I don't work Friday afternoons, because I like to be doing other things. Maybe I catch up with, my own admin, or maybe I don't know, visit a supermarket. Okay, look, we all know I don't do that because I talk about Mercado deliveries a lot, but it's those kinds of things. If I take a long weekend, my clients won't notice because they're used to me not being there on a Monday morning and a Friday afternoon. Yeah. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have client calls. I am on one-to-one calls with people from my mastermind, private coaching clients. I am on group calls with people from the C-suite, things like that. And on Wednesdays, I have Wednesdays and Friday mornings, I have sales calls. When I do discovery calls, it's when I do exploratory chats for programs that I'm running. Happens on a Wednesday and a Friday. Doesn't happen any other day. And the reason I do that isn't because then I can have a really pretty calendar so it all looks nice and stuff. It's because when I schedule my weeks like that, it means that in that first week of the month, I create all of my content and it all sells, has calls to action, it's clear, it's outlined, it sells something, whether that's an upgrade in a free product, whether it's getting someone to download something, whether it's an actual sale, whether it's inviting them to a discovery call or a sales call. And then it means in those weeks where I'm on client calls, if I want to do my first sales activity every day, I can go out there and I always do actually. So I do. I follow up with people. I send out proactive outreach messages. I reply personally to emails that I think I can maybe help people with and recommend them either to other resources of mine or other resources of somebody else's. I hold launches, but all the content is there. It's created so it's easy. Yeah. Now you might not have or want to dedicate a week to your content creation. And let's face it, you might not need to. If you don't have tons of content going out, if you've got one newsletter a week and one podcast every 2 weeks, you probably don't need a whole week to do it. But if you just sat there at the beginning of the month, imagine how much more freedom you would have, right? And you sat there and you did it for 2 days and then you're like, for the rest of the month, I don't have to create any content. How amazing would that be? And you get the choice to do that. You get the choice to create content in a batched way so that you're not reactive, so that you're not stressed, that you're not feeling like you're always catching up. It's there, it's done. And then every day that isn't that week, you're doing a sales activity first thing every day. Easy. Just make your life easy. All right. And then, of course, if you want to, if you're tired of doing all of this, if you're tired of creating tons of organic content, you're tired of showing up on social media, you're tired of trying to get people to buy your stuff and they don't see the value in it and they're not doing the work you want them to do. You want to streamline your sales activities, you want simple sales at high price points, sell to corporates, right? Over there, it's even easier to make time for sales activities because the sales activities are much simpler. There's not as much content involved. It's much easier, right? It's manual, but it's a lot simpler to do. And if you're interested in that, obviously you can join the Selling to Corporate Facebook group, or you can search for Selling to Corporate on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other podcast provider, and you'll be able to find it there. You can listen to my musings on selling to corporates. All right. Hopefully that's been helpful. If you have enjoyed today's episode, here is my call to action. If you've enjoyed it, please go and leave a review on iTunes. It really helps. It means that we are able to climb up the iTunes rankings, and iTunes then pushes us out to new listeners, and that's really important. It's really important that we continue to build this community of people who want to make sales easy for themselves and a better experience for their clients. I'll see you in next week's episode. Have an amazing week.